Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So we're coming back to Mannadium for our Season 25 deck profile. However, we will probably end up having to do a follow-up deck profile, as it looks like this deck is going to be getting a lot of new support. Well, at least a good amount of new support from what the leaks have indicated so far. I think the only one that's been, like, more fully leaked was the Love Light Synchro, which we talked about in our latest This Week in Master Duel video. So, but yeah, if we also get, like, even if we get that by itself, that's already a pretty decent boost for this deck. But if we also get the other follow-up Visas cards, then it's like so over. This deck becomes so much better. And this deck is already very, very good. I think, and it seems like a lot of other people think, that this is definitely a tier 2 deck in Master Duel right now. Meaning this is definitely within like the top 6 or 7 decks you could be playing in the game as far as like overall power level goes, in my opinion. But we're just playing a fairly standard list to start off with. I did also build a list that had the Zodiac engine as well. I just haven't tested it out yet. But yeah, we're for our initial list here. I was playing the small Kashtira package, that being for this deck in particular, the soon-to-be one of Fenrir, a Scareclaw Kashtira, as well as the one of Reichheart as well. Those 3 individual cards. The Scareclaw Cash can potentially come up as a good, like, Scareclaw name, just to have that on the board to be able to make your plays. But I'll say this too. Not only playing the deck this season, but also last season as well, I never personally encountered a situation where Scareclaw Cash just, like, saved me in that regard. It's a little bit awkward sometimes to actually have a line with it, especially to try to summon it if Fenrir is the only monster you have access to. We just don't have a way, really, to get Fenrir in the graveyard, aside from linking it, or maybe popping it with an Abscission. But the problem with linking it is that even if you link it to, like, Cross Sheep, for example, right? And then you can summon the Scareclaw Cash, you can't put the Light-Heart in the EMZ, well, I mean, yeah, you can't put the Light-Heart in the EMZ, which means you won't search the Reichphobia. So it can be a little bit awkward. So for that reason, like, initially I did have those 3 cards again, the one of Fenrir, the one of Scareclaw Cash, and the one of Reichheart in the deck. But ultimately, I decided to drop them for the Droll unlock, the Nib, and what was the other one? Oh, it was the 3rd Abscission, because we were initially only playing 2. So if you see any duels in this video where I have, like, a random Kashtira card in hand, just know that I was playing them previously, but am not now. However, I will say I'm already thinking of putting them back in by taking out the Magnamhut and the Druiswarm, and then just, like, another random card. Maybe the 3rd Abscission again. Maybe, I don't know, Crossout's really good just in general to have for, like, the Maxx and also the one of Droll. The one of Droll could also be taken out, but yeah, I'm also kind of tinkering with the idea of taking out the Magnamhut and Druiswarm and just putting in the Kashtira stuff again, because while the Scareclaw Cash hasn't really saved me from, like, unbricking my hands in my personal games, I can definitely say that it's still a good just card to have in general, and especially the Fenrir is also a very good buy to end on. And as I've mentioned before lately, like, the Bystials can be good disruption, but it's not only super matchup dependent, but it's also very situationally dependent. So I kind of have a hard time counting the Bystials as disruption sometimes. And in that regard, if I'm really thinking of them as extra bodies, it might just be better to have the Fenrir, Scareclaw Cash, and Reichheart. But that's just all, like, I don't know, we'll speculate. Well, and also, to be fair, if we're, again, going to get these new Visas cards, it's going to hugely change how we build the deck anyway. So it might not even be worth speculating on too much in that regard. But yeah, I mean, this is like a very, very run-of-the-mill Mannadium list for right now in Master Duel. You know, we got 3 Visas. I do think it's very important to have 3 Visas, as well as 3 Reichheart. Like, you pretty much always want to see these cards in your opening hand, so having 3 of them I do think is not only worth it, but also important as well. For the extra deck, I decided to try out the Knightmare Unicorn and Accesscode over IP and Goddess. And after trying them out, I very much miss IP and Goddess. Moving forward, I will definitely be dropping these. None of these are bad in Mannadium, mind you, but I do think that IP and Underworld Goddess of the Closed World ultimately do end up being better enough of the time. One new extra thing I'm also trying out here is the regular old Stardust Dragon. So having Stardust Dragon in your extra deck is actually really good. Believe it or not, it helps you play around Nibiru, because if you have the Accel Synchro Stardust out and your opponent drops a Nib, you can chain this effect in order to go into your Stardust, immediately Synchro Summon into one of your 10s, and also the Accel Synchro Stardust has a quote-unquote secret effect, where for the rest of the turn, the monsters Synchro summoned by this effect are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Funnily enough, this not only protects whatever you end up synchroing off this effect, but it'll even protect the Stardust Dragon that you summon as well, because if you read the effect here, attributing this card to summon the Stardust for the extra deck, this is treated as a Synchro summon. So, because that it is Synchro summoned, it is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, like I said, that can help you dodge Nibiru, and the Mannadium extra deck, to be honest, is fairly wide open anyway. As far as cards you have to have in a Mannadium extra deck, it's like the 2 Astraloud, the Accel, the Baronne, the Pater, the Chaos Angel, debatably. At least 1 Light-Heart. I think 2 is probably needed, but at least 1. Cross Sheep, and Apollusa. And that's pretty much it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, Spright Elf, I'll count to 10, 11. So that's like 10 to 11 cards I would say every Mannadium extra deck has to have. So yeah, that leaves the extra deck pretty wide open. So again, the regular Stardust Dragon is not at all needed. If you don't have this or don't want to craft it, then you definitely do not have to play Mannadium. However, I do think that it is probably optimal to play this card because, again, the extra deck has room for it. It helps you dodge Nibiru, and for what I can tell on Master Duel meta, I think it was like 63%. It's definitely the majority of Mannadium decks are playing the regular Stardust as well. But again, not at all required if you do not have it or want to play it. I might also try to slot in a level 6 Synchro monster because I've definitely had times where I could very much use the ability to Synchro Summon for level 6. Particularly Tri-Edge Master, just giving a free draw if you end up getting disrupted and it can only end on like Rim and Meek and nothing else. It's like you might as well get a draw and like see if it's at least something, you know, so. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I really need to say about the build, because like I said, it's a pretty standard one. Let's just break it down card by card, and then we'll look at some gameplay. So, we're on 1 Droll Knockbird, 3 Maxx, 3 Mannadium Meek, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Scareclaw Reichheart, 3 Mannadium Riumheart, 3 Visas Starfrost, 1 Bystial Magnamhut, 1 Bystial Druiswarm, 1 Nibiru, the Primal Being, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 2 Scareclaw Arrival, 1 Mannadium Imaginings, 3 Mannadium Abscission, 2 Primitive Planet Reichphobia, 3 Peaceful Planets Calarium, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, and then 1 Mannadium Reframing. That'll do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 2 Vicious Astraloud, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Accel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, 1 Bystial Dis Pater, 1 Chaos Angel, 2 Scareclaw Light-Heart, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Spright Elf, 1 Knightmare Unicorn, 1 Apollusa Bow of the Goddess, and then 1 Accesscode Talker. That'll do it for the list. Let's see those games now. Alright, our first opponent is going to be on Kashtira, which might seem like a really scary matchup with the Banishing with the Reichheart and Shifter. But fun fact, Mannadium actually has not just plays, period, but a good amount of plays under a banish type of lingering effect. I don't remember if that's this game or another one where we actually see that. I think it is actually going to be another one, but all the same, it is something you can do. So I'm going to start off with the Rhoda for the Reichheart because we already have Riumheart. Gonna activate Abscission. Opponent chains Maxx, I Ash Blossom here. No, sorry, not Abscission, Imaginings. Which they must have... see, here's the thing. I think even if you do confuse this card for Abscission, I feel like that's a really weird point to use Maxx. Believe it or not, there is actually a bit of skill to when you activate Maxx. If the opponent was going to shotgun it before I activated any effect that special summoned, they should have done so during the draw phase, because then I would not be able to use Triple Tactics talent like I can right now. Also, if you're going to wait on it, you want to wait until you're going to like get a draw off of the Maxx, or at a point where your opponent is about to special summon, because it might potentially stop them from special summoning and doing their plays. Here, using it against Imaginings is so weird because this effect has nothing to do with special summoning, and not only that, but also this effect allows me to hand sculpt. Hand sculpt meaning that I can draw some cards, put a card back, basically optimize my hand from a bunch of different options, and that just opens them up even further to getting like triple tacked. So I don't know why my opponent Maxx'd when they did. I think it was an awful moment to do it, but which again, Maxx is one of those cards that it does not seem like it will have like any amount of skill to use, but it does actually have that skill. So I go to use the Abscission on the Meek here, and the opponent is going to Ash Blossom, and that is actually going to, well, normally it would stop my plays, but thankfully we have the Reichheart here, so I can actually use the Abscission to just summon out the Reichheart, and then continue my line from there. But if I didn't have Reichheart in hand, that would have absolutely stopped my plays, and can also, this kind of situation is also why it can be good to have Tri-Edge Master in particular, because, like, yeah, you can make Coral Dragon, but Coral Dragon, you don't get the draw unless you sync with it. So in a situation where you only have Meek and Rim and nothing else, you want the draw up front. You want it right away, right? So I think the Tri-Edge Master would probably be a little bit better there. Okay, here we're going to link off the Meek and the Light-Heart in order to summon out our Cross Sheep. And then from there, I can use the Arrival to bring back that Reichheart. That'll allow me to sync it with the Visas in order to summon out our Baronne de Fleur. Then I can summon the Vicious Astraloud, put it in Cross Sheep's other zone. Also, do not activate Cross Sheep's effect until you're putting a fusion monster in one of the zones. I've had games where I've misplayed by activating it when I only have a Synchro monster in its zone, and then that's a once per turn effect, so you will not get another opportunity to summon a monster from the graveyard. And then from here, I just decided to make a 4-material Apollusa. If I had Elf and IP, I could have ended on that, and I think I like that more than just making the Apollusa. It just offers you more flexibility, because you can still go for the Apollusa off the IP if you end up needing it, but having the option to optionally go into the Guardian as well is also very good. So you'll note that I waited to use Dis Pater's destroying effect until the Reichheart hit the field and used its on-board effect. I did actually consider using the Dis Pater effect against the Reichheart effect to summon itself from hand, but if I'm going to destroy the Reichheart, I might as well let it use both effects and then pop it after that. So I'm not scared of the Fenrir here either, because even if they go to activate the effect after I use Dis Pater's effect, I can negate it with the Apollusa, and my Apollusa will still have 100 more attack points than the Fenrir, thanks to my Printed Planet Reichphobia, because I have a defense mode monster on the field. Yeah, them adding a Cashier monster here kind of felt like bait, so I let them do it, but they're going to try to summon out the Scareclaw Cache. I'm going to negate that, which will put my Apollusa within range of being battled over, but we denied them a body. Plus, the Scareclaw Cache was going to run over the Apollusa anyway, so now they will get to Triple Tactics talent. I am definitely going to Baron and negate that, because I know they have only one other card left, and even though I'm out of Disruption, it's like, yeah, it's not super likely that it's actually, you know, going to be super relevant. So I want to Druiswarm also during the end phase specifically, because that way, if I do it on my turn, that would proc the Fenrir. Excuse me. Rather, if I did it on my turn and waited, it would proc the Fenrir effect. And while I could use the Dis Pater, I'd rather hold it if possible. If possible, excuse me. Oh, wait, the hiccups here. So yeah, Scareclaw Cache makes this not an OTK, but that's fine. My opponent's going to be in literal top deck mode at the end of it, and I still have Dis Pater up, as well as the Maxx too. Yeah, there's like, as a Cashier deck, I don't think there's like any one thing at all that they can top deck in order to get out of that kind of a situation there. So there we have it, our first game of the video up against Cache, a very nice back and forth kind of a game there. Yeah, let us go ahead and just move on to the next one. Okay, next opponent is going to be on Vanquish Soul. One Fenrir, so they are a post-ban list build, looks like. And I think this is actually the game where we get to demonstrate some shifter shenanigans, if I recall correctly. Yep, so opponent's going first, and they're immediately going to fire off the shifter here. Makes sense while they don't have anything in the graveyard. They reveal Pantera, which is completely fine with me. Pantera is by far the least scary Vanquish Soul monster to see on turn 1. And then, yeah, Borger's going to show me the Ash Blossom to deal some damage to me, and then pass. That's actually a very interesting point of consideration. I do think it is worth it to get the Borger burn in. However, you could consider not activating that burn effect to not let the opponent know that you have an Ash Blossom, because that is 100% going to affect how I play out this turn. Now, granted, for my hand, I already have Call By as well as Triple Attack, so like the knowledge of Ash Blossom doesn't really change a lot for me. But there are a lot of situations where it might. Granted, I do think it is still the correct decision to use the burn effect, even if it means showing the Ash Blossom on turn 1 in this scenario. But I could see why somebody would not want to do that. That makes sense to me. Yep, here is the Borger effect again, revealing the Pantera and the Ash Blossom. We also know there's only one card left in hand that we don't know about, so we should be pretty good as far as like just having knowledge of the opponent's resources. And oh my god, that Imaginings was so good. Putting back the Nib, getting Reichheart and Abscission, that's disgusting. That's so good. And yeah, I think that it was like, god, Imaginings is such a good card. I have had builds in the past where I've not played it, but I think moving forward, I'm almost always going to be playing it. And okay, I kind of talked over this a little bit, but if we look at this chain link, because remember, we were under Shifter, right? So you would think, oh, a deck like the Mannadium that's constantly like destroying things and summoning and banishing out of the graveyard, surely that's just got to get killed by Shifter, right? Actually, wrong. As you can see, we did our line specialing the Meek. We activated Rim, popping the Meek, and that still procced both the Meek and even the Calarium. Because if you read Calarium, it just says that if a face-up tuner you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of those monsters, special summon it. Does not say from the graveyard. So we actually summon our Meek back from the banished pile under Shifter off of the Calarium. Similarly, Mannadium Calarium, or Mannadium Meek rather, says if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Mannadium Meek from your deck, then you can increase its level by 2. Nowhere on here does it say this card has to go to the graveyard. Now, granted, we do have effects that very much care about the graveyard, particularly the Accel Stardust, the Vicious Astraloud, even this Scareclaw Arrival that we added. So we are affected by our stuff going to the banish pile, but it does not mean that we have 0 plays under Shifter. In fact, quite the opposite, as you saw. We definitely have a lot of lines. So much so that my opponent didn't even want to see. As soon as they saw that I was activating Meek and Calarium, and Riumheart's effect activated there too, as soon as those all fired off anyway, the opponent just conceded. Granted, we also know their hand was really bad, but yeah, just had to include this game to demonstrate that Shifter does not stop this deck. But yeah, let's go ahead and see some more duels here. And yet again, another Cashier deck. Wow, I didn't even realize I faced so many like decks that could banish in this ladder climb. But as we just demonstrated, Mannadium does not always care about that. It does sometimes. It does sometimes. I won't pretend like it doesn't. So this hand looks pretty dead, right? Like at a glance, you might see this hand and be like, oh, we have the Visas, but we don't have anything to pop for it. Like it's like, does this hand even do anything? The answer is actually yes. You just gotta be willing to normal summon Maxx. If we do that, we can pop it with the Abscission and add a Peaceful Planet Calarium. From there, Calarium's effect can add the Mannadium Meek. Now, it might not seem like we can summon anything, but Abscission can actually use its graveyard effect to special the Visas. We can then special the Meek, and then link the Visas off into the Light-Heart, very much going into plays from here. So, yeah, Mannadium is definitely one of those decks where a lot of hands that might look like bricks aren't necessarily. You just gotta sometimes be willing to normal summon like a Maxx, which, to be fair, I've done a lot of my best work normal summoning Maxx in Sprite variants, so I guess I'm just a little predispositioned to kind of look out for it and see if I have an opportunity to do that. So you don't have to go for Baron right here, but I wanted to because my opponent was getting past priority a lot, and I wanted to make sure that if they had Nibiru, I was playing around it. I'm actually trying to remember what that card ended up being, because I don't remember. I mean, I looked at their list, but I only glanced at it to see if they were Kashtira. Wasn't actually looking to see if they were actually on Nib or not. They probably aren't because, you know, most Kashtira decks are not, but I've played against Kashtira decks that do play it, so it's not impossible by any means. Okay, we're gonna make the Cross Sheep here. Then summon out the Astraloud. I think I could have used the Meek as a material for the Cross Sheep, actually, but it was weird. My board state was getting kind of weirdly gunked up there. So I decided to just do it this way, going for the Dis Pater. Oh yeah, and here I decided to experiment a little and go for Elf and see, even without IP, if this was worth, like, you know, going into. But I kind of found that it wasn't. I won't lie to you. Because, like, yeah, here I get to make the Chengying, but I don't end on the Apollusa. So this is, again, why I said I kind of want IP back, because summoning Elf on turn 1 is kind of weird without it. And, like, yeah, I could have just gone for the Apollusa, but I don't know. I do think that Elf plus IP is better than a 3-material Apollusa. Because, again, you could still go for the Apollusa, you know, if you want to, but... Alright, so here I opted to use the Baron on the Theosis rather than the Unicorn, because if I negate destroy Unicorn, then, you know, they can just summon another Kashtira monster from hand. They can absolutely eat Apollusa, that's 100% fine. I will Chengying and banish the Unicorn here, because I kind of feel like as they're playing out more of their hand, it's becoming less and less likely they just have another Cash monster. Plus, I know they have Birth, right? So, even if they have another Cash monster in hand, they can just normal summon it off of the Birth effect. Definitely want to reframe the talents, by the way. That was very, very scary, especially because it does not target, so... There's summoning Big Eye here, but I don't know why they opted to take Dis Pater and not just go for a Zeus. I guess they forgot that they impermed my Dis Pater, but that's fine. They're going to normal summon out the Raider's Wing, taking that, and then linking everything off with a Link 3 BLS, which is not particularly scary to me at all here. Yes, they are able to protect it from targeting and destruction because they used a level 7 or higher monster as a material, but we happen to have a card in play that does neither of those things. So it's as easy as me summoning the Astraloud, which procs the Chengying, which again does not destroy or target, banishing the BLS, and then, yeah, I easily have more than enough damage on board for lethal here. Alright, got one more duel to check out. Let's go ahead and see that game here. Okay, final duel for this video is going to be against Lightsworn. So, when I first saw this opponent, I thought, oh, that's cool. They're playing like a pure Lightsworn deck because they're excited about the new support that's going to come out. Well, that's pretty neat. But they're going to be up to something a little bit more nefarious here. So they start with Charge of Light Brigade, milling a Wolf. I'm not only going to Ash the charge, but also a Maxx here, just to make sure. I mean, I could wait until Wolf's effect is activated, but Wolf is also a mandatory effect, so it doesn't super matter. The funny thing is, too, if you go back and watch the stream VOD, I said to chat at about this point in time, oh, I hope that, especially after I saw Fairy Tail Snowmeld, I said, oh, I hope we didn't get ourselves into a Dark World style situation where I'm going to regret activating this Maxx, which may or may not be spoilers for how this duel plays out, but in any case, we'll just keep on watching them, so... Yeah, they get to Shiren, summon out the Destrudo, overlay the Shiren and Wolf for the Minerva. Minerva F is going to mill even more cards here. Sending the Havness as well as Reichheart are both going to proc here. We did manage to draw one of our two Bystials, the Magnamhut, so I'm going to use that, try to use that here, but opponent's going to chain Fairy Tail Snow, which will still stop the Havness, but they definitely still get a body out of it, and I am not going to be able to summon the Magnamhut here. Alright, Tier Cash as well as Reichheart both proccing here. I don't believe Shiren's effect Diffuse is procced at all, so that should still be live. And yep, that is going to go off as well as the Trick Clown effect to summon itself back to the field. Opponent can still fusion summon the EMZ, so... There is that. And yeah, it was at this point in time when I realized how many materials they had on board and how much stuff in general they still had access to, and I started eyeing my deck, and I'm like, oh, I think... Oh no, it was especially when Daigusto Emerald came out. When Daigusto Emerald came out, I was like, oh wait, they're actually going to deck me out here. This is a loop deck. And yeah, unspoiling things now, that is actually just what is going to happen here. Oh, Chaos Ruler, my beloved. Yeah, this is just a loop deck. The funny thing is, it looks like it's a Trishula loop deck, which most of the time the opponent would win by summoning Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, enough times to banish all cards from the opponent's hand on turn 1. Here, they do get to still do the loop, but rather than their win con being me not having a hand, their win con is going to be me having everything in hand, as infinite summons mean infinite draws, and I definitely do not have infinite cards in my deck, so... I don't know if this combo actually does go infinite, but it definitely feels like it does. Yep, and there it is, Lumina, Twilight Soren Lumina, and Minerva syncing for Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Alright, Trishula here is going to end up eating that Magnamhut that I already used, which is fine. Charge of Light Brigade coming down here. I mean, do I even need to commentate over this game at this point? Like, I feel like at this point in time, we can all pretty clearly see what's going on here. Chaos Space for the Felis, Lightsworn Archer. Chaos Space also going to end up drawing a card here by putting back the Punishment Dragon. Chaos Ruler coming back by banishing the Minerva and the Shiren. Alright, Sirius Skull Dread. Oh, that's just the attack point gain. Yeah, that's whatever. So here we do some of the Druiswarm, and I'm like, how good is this even here, the Druiswarm? I thought about potentially using it against the opponent's Fairy Tale Snow. I will say at this point, I actually was like toggled off, because I kept getting asked to if I wanted to activate something useless. Oh, it was the Scareclaw cache, right? So yeah, I definitely should have been paying better attention here, but by the time I even realized that, like, oh yeah, I drew Druiswarm, that could potentially help me here. My opponent's going to summon the second Trishula, and they actually, believe it or not, rip the Druiswarm. Where is it? Oh no, they don't do it here. Was that a different game, or is it just later in this game? No, it's right here with the Phantom Fortress. This is where they rip the Druiswarm. And I was like, come on, really? But again, to be fair, I should just use it sooner. I think I could have used it against one of the Luminas, or maybe the Fairy Tale Snow, but... I don't know. I also, at this point, only have... How many cards left in my deck? 11? I don't know if the Druiswarm would have actually made the difference of my opponent being able to deck me or not. Maybe if I had eaten out... Well, but again, even if I'd eaten the snow out of the graveyard, it's like... As far as the Lumina and the Twilight Sword Lumina go, too... They have multiple copies of Lumina. Maybe I should have been eating the Twilight Sworn Lumina out of the graveyard. Yeah, that probably was just the way to do it, looking back. Because, yeah, they're not even summoning the what is it? The Fairy Tale Snow anymore. And here they go for the other Trishula, the level 11 Trishula. They even get to make that here as well. But yeah, they also have, like, Zephyros. They definitely would have been able to deck me out without Snow, I think, here. The Lumina, again, I'm a little bit more dubious about, but... Alright, we're syncing for the Omega. More hand ripping. Yeah, infinite hand rips is definitely looking like it was the goal of my opponent's deck here. And following one last Link 3, the Curious, the Lightsworn Domain, we're getting Thanos snapped. And we are decking out, so... Yeah, I've never encountered this style of Lightsworn deck before, so I had to go ahead and just show this off. Couldn't not, but... That'll go ahead and do it for this video. Thanks everybody so much for watching these games. And of course, as always as ever, does mean the world to me that you watch all the way to the end of the video like this. Let us now go ahead and move to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.